Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how to care for a Brachypelma smithi, the Mexican Redknee, and these are very easy species to care for and make a great recommendation for a first tarantula. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to care for an adult or a large juvenile, and this is Tess, my adult female that I did raise from a Spiderling. I've actually had her for 6 years now, and over that time she's grown from around 1 inch to a good 5.5. So yeah, they are quite slow growing. It has taken her a good 5 years to reach the maximum size, and now she only molts around once a year. One of the most important things about keeping this species is to make sure the substrate stays relatively dry in there. They are from a very arid environment in Mexico, so they like it warm but pretty dry. Once a week I will refill the water dish, and then I'll dampen a patch of substrate. You can see it's slightly damp over there, but do not dampen all the substrate because they won't like that at all. And if it is too humid in there, they will cling to the side of the enclosure, and if your spider is doing that, then that would be a sign that it is too damp in the enclosure. Okay, so the substrate I've used is the Eco-Earth type substrate you can buy that comes in the blocks, and you just add water to it and it expands. And I've actually also mixed some vermiculite in there. This enclosure has been like this for at least a year now, and now I've actually stopped adding the vermiculite. You don't really need it for these species because the enclosure is going to be kept dry anyway. And once you've got it set up, it can last easily for a couple of years, maybe even longer, because as you are keeping it very dry, there's no chance of any mould growing in there or other kind of fungal growths. So yeah, these are very low maintenance spiders. Adults and juveniles only need to be offered food once a week, or maybe even once every 2 weeks, and even then they won't eat all the time. Can go for a good 6 months or so without food, so there's no need to worry if your spider stops eating. As long as it's got a large abdomen, like my female has, then she'll be fine. And also a filled up water dish, so she can keep herself hydrated. When these spiders are hungry, they will feed happily on crickets, as well as locusts and mealworms, and you could even offer them a roach if you wanted to, but you would need to make sure that it was the right size for the spider. And I've actually got a cricket here, an adult female, so let's see if she's hungry. So yeah, what you saw there was a pretty clear signal that she's not hungry. Just kind of ignored the cricket and let it walk away. These species are very calm and slow moving, and it takes quite a bit to startle them, which makes them a good choice if you want to hold your pet tarantula, because they can be held. Okay, so as well as the water dish and the substrate, it is also a good idea to use a hide in the enclosure, even though the spider might not use it, as my female hasn't here. And you can also put a fake plant in there, just for decoration, but as you can see, she has kind of ripped it out of the substrate, and it's lying on its side. But if we take a look at my juvenile male's enclosure, you can see he's left his plants where I put them, and it actually looks quite effective. And he's quite happy just to sit on top of the hide rather than actually use it. But yeah, as you can see, he's in a slightly smaller enclosure. I've used a medium-size Exoterra faunarium here, and my adult females I put in a medium flat one, which is the same floor space as a large Exoterra. Okay, so as you saw, she didn't eat the cricket, which means we need to remove it from the enclosure. And although these are docile species, and you probably could put your hand in there without them attacking you, it is a good idea just to use a safer method. So what I do is I get a pill jar, place it in the enclosure against the side, and then use a pair of tweezers to coax the cricket into it. And as you can see, this is usually quite effective. And as you can see, it's usually quite effective and very safe method of getting the cricket out of the enclosure again. Okay, so next we're going to talk about how to care for the spiderlings of this species. This is my only bee smithy spiderling at the moment, and this is actually a year-old spiderling, just starting to get the adult coloration, but probably won't have a good coloration into another year or so. So it's a good idea if it's your first spider to go for an adult or a juvenile, because then you start off with a beautiful looking spider rather than having to wait a year or so for it to get the adult coloration. But yeah, spiderlings need smaller enclosures. This one has recently molted. You can just see the molt outside of the enclosure there, and it does actually need upgrading to the next size. So soon it will be in this size enclosure, like my Brachypelma albiceps is in. This one only measures around 7 centimeters in diameter, and the actual spiderling now measures around 4, whereas this one's around 10, so that would be a much better size for it, and will give it plenty of space to grow. So yeah, as well as feeding more regularly, you need to feed them on smaller prey items. These are the size of the crickets that I feed it, and it should be pretty hungry because it has only recently molted around a week ago. So yeah, I'm going to grab one of those crickets now, and we shall hopefully see it feed. Okay, so I've grabbed a cricket with a smaller pair of tweezers, and hopefully it will take it down for us. Yeah, there we go. Straight away. They are quite good feeders as spiderlings, and grow at a medium to slow rate, taking a good 4 or 5 years to reach adult size. Spiderlings are too small to have a water dish in their enclosure, and so to provide water, what I found is the best way to do it is to use a pipette to gently drop a couple of drops onto a fake leaf you may have in the enclosure, and also onto the substrate. The spiders will actually drink from the substrate while it's still damp, and you can also put drops onto the side of the enclosure which they will also drink from. And yeah, I do this around once a week, unless it dries out before then, or if it's still damp then I'll leave it a few more days. And yeah, this is what seems to work for me. And I have raised one spiderling into an adult, so seems to work quite well. Okay then guys, one thing I had forgotten to mention was the temperature that I keep this species at. It's just my room temperature, which is 22 degrees Celsius, and that's around 72 Fahrenheit. So anything above 70 is a good temperature Fahrenheit wise, and Celsius, anything above 20 is also pretty good. They can be kept cooler. If you keep them too cool then they will go off food for a few months, but that's nothing to worry about because they can do that anyway, and they also can be kept slightly warmer. But yeah, I would recommend around 20 to 23 degrees Celsius and 70 to 75 or so Fahrenheit. But yeah, that's just a general idea. Okay, so overall this is a great species to own, either as a first pet tarantula or just an addition to your collection, because not only are they very easy to care for, they're also a great looking species, and this is one of my personal favourites, and this was actually the second tarantula that I ever brought way back in 2006. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I shall see you again soon.